Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. You might be wondering, why has he started his commentary so early? He usually begins when the battle has begun. And that's because today's video isn't really going to be focused on the play-by-play. It's not going to be an amazing, exciting adventure through this battle of World of Tanks. It's going to be about thinking it through, and the battle actually begins before your commander tells you. It begins in the first 30 seconds. I'm going to be explaining everything that I've been thinking all the way through this entire battle, so that maybe a few of you out there, it might demystify a little bit of the process. So immediately, when the battle begins, I'm looking at the matchup. I'm holding my tab key, and I'm looking at threats on the enemy team. So dangerous autoloader, really big alpha damage, you know, decent frontal armor with 122mm, going to be able to trade well against me. Artillery, that's a big threat. Very sneaky tank, a light tank, and some tier 6s are propping up the bottom that I'm not too concerned about. So, I'm playing on steps encounter, and whenever I'm playing on an encounter map, I try to figure out, do I think the enemy team are going to cap? And in this kind of a matchup, especially around the mid-tier, in a lovely matchup like this for the guard, I do think that those tier 6s might try and make their way towards the east, and sometimes people are just happy to cap out and even just win the battle and get those kind of 200 base experience games. Now, you don't have to worry about the more dangerous players doing that, because they're very likely to just push on straight past and try and farm up the kills. They don't want to cap. But if the enemy team does go down the west, then I'm just thinking, at least if I have 1 or 2 tanks with me, then I should be okay. Now I'm thinking, shall I stop and engage this Lorraine? Is it going to stop me from being able to get the ambush shot out down the east? I'm not 100% certain whether that shot hit the Lorraine or not. We'll have to find out later on. And so when I stop there, I'm also considering, am I going to get spotted? And the only tanks that are really going to spot me in that location is if one of their light tanks has rushed across this location. So maybe it was the AMX-12T that could have gone there, but I didn't really feel that it was too dangerous. If it had been a standard game, it would have been completely different. Then the enemies would likely have situated around this location rather than up here, and then shots across the valley would have, or across the plain, would have definitely been more of an opportunity. So this AMX-12T has just vaulted into a rather bizarre location. Has he actually made it up, or is he just sitting in the corner? I guess he's just driven behind that rock. I don't see many people try and use that position, but it looks like this AMX-12T is. So we put our first shot into him, going to put the second one in, and I know that if I can take him out, that it's going to be very valuable for my team because we get rid of the enemy's vision. Now that the AMX-12T is no longer above me on the right, now I can go down into the valley. And I'm constantly thinking, what kind of danger tanks can I meet here? Well, the Lorraine was spotted, the IS-3 was spotted, so apart from the ISU-152, there really aren't that many serious big threats on the enemy team apart from artillery. So what I'm probably going to do here is always try and hug the ridgeline. If you try and hug one of these ridgelines, that means the artillery is gonna be much harder for the artillery to hit you. So I lose a shot to the M6 there. I take a look just for the stream and also at the time to see how he penetrated me, and it went right through the upper plate. And now the T-3485 clearly wants to flank me, because most players who are engaging the tank in front of them don't actively stay aware and look around them and stop the lower tier tanks from flanking them. But, however, whenever I finish off the M6, this T-3485M looks like he wants to commit, thinking, surely he's facing the other way, but I'm not. So it's all about, after you've put the next shot in, after you've killed the tank that's in front of you, thinking about what's the next possible threat. And that was obviously clearly the T-3485M. Now this is a very key moment. You'll think that I was confident, and at the time I was thinking, shall I just go up over this ridge and then go after the T-3485M? But I'd used my repair kit. Can you imagine if I'd crested that ridge and the T-3485M had taken off my tracks? That would have been the battle completely lost and gone there. And it's those little things that I was very actually happy. That's probably the most happy I was during this game, that I didn't do that, because you're eliminating risk. And of course in World of Tanks, if you eliminate risk, then you're going to make less mistakes, you're going to get taken out less, and you're going to have more hit points to be able to go through the battle longer, or you're just going to be involved in the game longer, which increases your chance of having a positive impact and winning the game. So apart from that, it's just really cleaning up here. One thing that the enemy have done really badly is, even though they had a platoon, they just didn't work together. I killed the AMX-12T quickly, then I killed the T-3485M, and then I managed to finish off the Type 58. So terrible play by that platoon, and now that I know that one of the platoons is taken out, then I should be more confident with making aggressive plays, because platoon mates work together, and even tanks that are 2 tiers lower than you, they've still got the same DPM. In fact, The T-3485M, I believe, has higher DPM than me, and this E-25, its DPM is about 50% higher than mine. But that doesn't mean anything if he just sits right in front of me and just takes shots. And at the time I was thinking, what the hell is this E-25 doing? Awful play. I guess he thought that his camo rating's a little bit better than it is, and I have this tank fully pimped up with view range, so I'm easily able to spot my opponents at long range. So now I'm in the open against a Lorraine, a T-150 and an E-25 on the flank with 2 artillery supporting them. I think, shall I save the shell? But I figured out that I had enough time to be able to reload before the Lorraine crested the ridge and engaged me. And even if he did, he'd only be able to put in 1 or 2 shots. Now I'm counting the shots of the Lorraine as well. That's the first shot fired. He's got 3 left maximum. Every shot that Lorraine fires is another shot they can't put into me. And oh, there's the second one. And so that would mean that even if I missed that shot, the Lorraine was only able to do 600 damage to me. And if he'd missed another one or his full magazine, well then you have to have that in your mind as to whether you can fully engage. So from here, I'm completely safe. I don't think these artillery are going to be able to spot me because even with binoculars their view range is going to be rather low. So it's just about where the hell this E-25 has gone. At the time I was thinking the E-25 has probably snuck out around the back and made his way around here. And obviously I'm concerned as well at the time of there being tank destroyers shooting me from this location. So in retrospect, it probably wasn't the best idea to stay on top of that ridge. Even though it arguably gave me the height that I needed to engage those self-propelled guns, it also made myself very vulnerable to this ISU-152. So what you see me doing here is I'm trying to expose the smallest amount of my tank possible to engage this ISU effectively. Now the E-25 didn't actually make his way towards the west. He made his way into the camouflage, well, into the camouflage net. No, he probably activated his camouflage net and sat in the bush to be able to get the good camo to avoid my view range. And so what I'm doing here is I'm reversing to only expose the smallest amount of my tank possible. This tank, as we saw, has got really bad hull armor, but it's actually got pretty okay turret armor. Your turret armor is going to be able to pull off a ricochet occasionally. Now you might be thinking, well, why isn't QB using his repair kit on his turret? It's because I don't need to right now. The turret isn't really that important. If I was to lose my gun, or get ammo racked, or maybe my engine, or even my fuel tanks were damaged, I think that would be more important than the turret. Now I decide to repair my turret because I feel it's probably going to be about a minute before I manage to find the IS-3 and fight him. And just look at this, we were completely right with what the IS-3 did. He just plowed all the way along the west. He killed over a third of my team, but we were able to kill more of his team on the other flank. And when you're in these +2 matchups, that's what it really is. It's kind of a duel. It's a duel between the top tier players, unless one of the mid and lower tier players can do something really special and even take on those higher tier tanks. And if they can, then you're going to have a real positive impact in the role. A real positive impact in the game, I should say. Even your role will be very good. So right now, I have to admit, I wasn't really thinking too much about the battle. I was feeling fairly confident about this. As long as I don't do anything stupid and I engage this IS-3 hopefully at as long range as possible where his 350 meters view range is not going to be able to spot me, then I should be okay. Can the IS-3 even see me? No, he can't. This is where that terrible view range on his tank and the fact that I have this vehicle fully pimped out with a good load of crew skills like situational awareness, like recon, I'm probably using coated optics and so on and so forth, that I feel very confident putting that second shot in. After that, I know that I've got enough hit points to take one. I can even take another one as long as he doesn't roll high, and so we finish him off with another AP round right through the front of his tank, and bish, bash, bosh, 10 kills. And do you know what, even at the time, this was a rather unimpressive pools medal, even at tier 8 for me, because it just felt like everything was going according to plan, and I don't know, fair enough, I have lots of bad games, but this one just felt all too easy. So let me quickly reiterate the key points from this replay. Number 1, the first 30 seconds are probably the most important 30 seconds. Use them to create a plan and take into account the map that you're playing on. Next, there should always be 2 things going through your mind. Number 1, am I going to get spotted if I fire or if I drive into a location? Number 2, what are the threats on the enemy team? Are they going to be able to shoot me if I get spotted? Number 3, if there are artillery, always hug ridgelines, because even gentle slopes like this provide you so much more opportunity to avoid the shell. Next up, don't do anything stupid like getting tracked over a ridgeline by a baby tank if you do not have the capacity to account for it, i.e. is your repair kit on cooldown. Next, always take into account if you're going to be outnumbered by your opponents and try try and kill them one by one to prevent them from doing so, and pay particular attention to platoons on the enemy team. Even if they didn't have a very positive role in this game, these 3 tier 6 tanks very easily could, if they'd just managed to flank me, they would have had triple my DPM if they'd all engaged me at the same time and taken me out in mere seconds. Next up, autoloaders. Count their shots. Make sure that you're prepared, and remember that if you can one-shot them, they're much less dangerous than if you have to shoot them multiple times. And if you do have to shoot them multiple times, know your reload and know their reload, know their alpha damage and know their intra-clip reload. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go and memorize all of this, but when you're playing World of Tanks and you pick up that new autoloader, just try and put it into memory and figure out which different nations have different weaknesses. And finally, even if you don't have much armor on your tank, only expose as much of it as you need to be able to engage your opponent effectively. Against that ISU 152, for example, if I'd crested this ridgeline, I would have been as dead as a dodo. By reversing up here, only exposing the top of my turret, it would have still gone in, but my silhouette would have been much smaller. And it's these little things that I sometimes take for granted, and I think my commentary suffers for that. And so sometimes it's really good to go back to basics, and I hope it was useful for you. So we pick up an ace tanker in the guard for a whopping amount of base experience, 1,907. Well, I don't achieve that very often. A Pascucci's medal for taking out those 2 self-propelled guns, a Pool's medal for squeaking that 10th kill at the end of the game, and a high caliber for 6,534 damage dealt. Wow, 4 times what anyone else was able to achieve. Not that it was that impressive. And a tank sniper for dealing most of that at long range, and 155,000 credits profit. I don't think I fired many, if any, premium rounds, but there's no doubt that we were quite fortunate that we hit 22 out of our 22 shots and 21 of those penetrated. And so did we dominate this game because of the guard? Well, sure, the alpha damage helped because our targets kind of aligned up for that 390 alpha, but I'm pretty sure I would have done the same in all other tier 8 vehicles, at least ones that weren't really slow. The reason why we were successful in this game was because we did the little things right and we took conscientious steps to minimize the possible mistakes or pitfalls that we could have fallen into. And while I know this video wasn't exactly a super exciting replay, trust me, I love the Kolobanos medals. I love putting tanks in high pressure situations. Those are my favorite games of World of Tanks and my favorite ones to commentate on. Hopefully some of you lovely ladies and gentlemen liked this kind of in-depth, thought-by-thought commentary. And if you did, give this video a like, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And also just a heads up, the Russian server just received update 9.21 today, so it's very much looking like the EU and NA server will be getting it tomorrow on Wednesday. And of course, I love new content in a new patch. And so, if any of you out there are going to be playing the Badger on day 1 and you have some pretty awesome games, or alternatively, if you're going to race your way up the French heavy tank line and play the, what is it even called, the AMX Emily 54, then I'd love to see your awesome replays. And if you have any, then upload them onto the WOT Replays EU website. And if you want to get my attention, put QuickyBaby in the title, just like these 3 people did, which helps me to see that you're a fan and that you actually want to be on this channel. And I'd like to say that this is the only way that you have a chance of me watching a replay. Back in the day, I used to have my own replays website. That's no longer up, and I don't accept replay submissions anywhere else. I'm not going to watch it. Don't waste your time. It's nothing personal. It's just hundreds are sent to me every day, and I have to draw the line somewhere. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to watching your replays tomorrow, and hopefully I'll see you soon.